My name is Krissa Rossbund. I am with Traditional Home Magazine. I am the Senior Style and Design Editor, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have 4 wonderful panelists, and it's November 12th, and that means it is time to start talking about holidays, and that's why we're here today. So I want to start by introducing the 4 panelists. So I'm going in order of you all on my screen. So Lisa McDennon. Lisa is with us from Laguna, California. You're probably the only one who has beautiful weather at the moment. The rest of us are cold at this point. Melinda Marquardt, and you are in London, so thank you for joining us because I know it's late your time. Next, we have Michelle Perry, and Michelle is joining us from South Carolina, Walterboro. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yep.
Okay. And finally, Isabel Ladd, and you are in Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to the viewers for joining us. So as I said, it's November 12th, and that means we can see Michelle's background because you've got a lovely little Christmas garland and wreath going on back there. But it's time to start talking about the holidays, and we're here today to talk not only about end of year holidays, but holidays from January 1st to December 31st. So I want to start off by talking about this year, and we've really in 2020 put an emphasis on understanding varying cultures and just sort of broadening our scope of knowledge beyond what we know individually. So I would love each of you to start by telling me what the sort of the end of year holidays look like for you, what you celebrate and what you love to do. Again, I'm just going to go in order. So Lisa, let's start with you.
Okay, so for our family, Thanksgiving is a really big holiday for us, and sometimes it's even bigger than Christmas or Hanukkah. And so, part of it too is I was born on Thanksgiving Day. So it's always a built-in birthday celebration for me. I always know everybody's going to have a party on Thanksgiving. But so that's kind of what it looks like for me. And of course, this year, as I'm sure everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. So we're putting a twist on it all this year.
Great. Next, Melinda. And you're in the UK, so tell us what that looks like. That's very exciting.
It's a bit different to the States. We have less holidays. So we don't have Thanksgiving, which is a shame, but I will travel to the States and visit family for that. But the biggest holiday is obviously Christmas Day. But after Christmas Day, we have a holiday that you guys don't have called Boxing Day, which it was created by the English aristocracy to box up gifts and give them to their servants. So it's kind of a rich giving to the poor, which is a nice sort of tradition.
Nice. Michelle?
Hi. I definitely love Thanksgiving, and that's a big deal here, and usually celebrated outside in some way, shape, or form with like a low country boil and oyster roast usually the night before. And then Christmas is another big one, which again, a lot of seafood and outdoors. And then I also really obsess over New Year's, which is a really big deal in my family. And we have a lot of folks over, and sometimes we'll go to church to celebrate. And there's an African-American holiday called Watch Night. That is a pretty big deal for New Year's. And there's a lot of Southern food traditions around New Year's as well.
Okay, let's talk about food for a second, because that's what everybody really wants to talk about, right? So tell us what some of those food traditions are.
For New Year's, there's a meal called Hoppin' John's, which is a mix of rice and a field pea and some sort of pork, which is really good. And everybody has a very different spin on it. It's not the black-eyed peas that everyone thinks it is. So that's a little different, especially specifically here in the Low Country, and most of the South makes the black-eyed peas. Then you usually have collard greens for money, ham for good luck and prosperity. Not sure how true it all is, but it's always good to have it and tasty to have it. And then here, like obviously another oyster season starts pretty much in October. So from tailgating to the holidays all the way to spring, pretty much everything revolves around as much oysters as you can have, because after that you don't get it. And I'm overly excited because I've been pregnant for the past couple of oyster seasons. So I'm extremely excited to be able to eat raw oysters again. So I have not been able. So that's some of the food traditions, and certainly some things that are like shrimp and grits and lots of rice, which are a part of the Low Country Charleston culture.
Okay, great. And Isabel, now you were born in Brazil, correct? Is that correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that sort of weave its way into your celebrations, and what are they? And tell us about the food.
So Brazil is that we have very similar holidays to that in America as far as Christmas, New Year's. We don't have Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims definitely bypassed Brazil on their way to Plymouth Rock. But there's a lot of food in Brazil that's very different. It has a lot of spices. It is not spicy. Black beans and rice are a staple at every single meal. And there's lots of vegetables and lots of desserts, and everything is just over the top. So that would be a Brazilian, something unique to Brazilian holidays, is that everything is over the top.
I need to, my family's German and the food is not so great. It's just not so great. So I need to, maybe that seafood situation sounds good and the spicy situation sounds good too. So we'll see. So let's talk design now. There are so many people out there who decorate seasonally all throughout the year. And then there are people who kind of leave it to this time of year when it's fall time. They kind of kick in with the pumpkins, and then it sprinkles into Christmas and Hanukkah. So tell me, what if it's not this time of year, what is the holiday that really sort of ignites those creative juices in you? Because personally, I'm a big 4th of July girl. I love, sign me up for red, white, and blue and firecrackers all day long. So what holiday is it for you where you're really sort of devoted to that design? Melinda, let's start with you, because you're across the pond, and let's
celebrate July.
I'm sorry?
We don't really celebrate 4th of July, considering it's the independence.
Yes.
Us. So
I know, but what is your favorite holiday? Like, what is your thing?
Absolutely adore Halloween, and I kind of got a taste of it when I lived in America for a short period of time for university, and I was like, what is this? And so I brought it back to the UK, and every year I throw a Halloween party in my house, and I completely disguise the entire thing as a haunted house, and I have friends come over, and I have a makeup artist come over and do all of my friends, and so that really ignites the fun spirit of decorating for me.
And your costume this year, what did you dress as?
It's really quite sad because we were in lockdown, so we didn't get to do it. It's such a shame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Isabel, what is the holiday that gets you designing?
My favorite holiday above all other holidays is New Year's. I think of New Year's as beyond, of course, a big holiday, but also just as a time of, rebirth, renewal, restart, fresh starts. And to me, decorating wise, all of the Christmas decorations go up, and they stay up between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then Christmas Day is when I take off all the Christmas decorations. And then you see the house kind of as bare in a way. And so that time between Christmas and New Year's is when I just start redecorating, reorganizing, getting rid of the old, bringing in the stuff that I either want to start incorporating in my design. And so to me, New Year's decoration, or that time period, is just about clean, fresh start. And then I bring in everything sparkly. For New Year's Day, I make a big deal about it. But really tablescapes. I love a good tablescape. And for me, New Year's Day is huge for that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Lisa.
So for me, I think it's really kind of the start of fall, and being here in California, we sort of have to force it a little bit because it still is very warm and almost summer-like even today. And so I feel like it's like as soon as you get those pumpkins out on your doorstep, and I can see I have apple trees in my front yard, and you can see that they're starting to turn, and putting a big basket of fresh apples on the dining table, and bringing in the rosemary and different types of things to really kind of give you the sense of the season, and just starting to kind of bring some of the outdoors in. For me, that gets us all kind of geared up and excited. And the mornings are very chilly, and then by the time you get to midday, it's hot. So so I think that's really kind of fun, and I love just waking up to those crisp mornings. And so that's kind of what I really enjoy doing. And then we transition that through the holiday, and I tend to be a little bit more of a minimalist when it comes to kind of the sort of decorating. And so I think every year, I'm very careful in terms of what I pick and choose in terms of highlighting for, decorating, whether it's my mantle or the front doorstep or something like that, but kind of pick an area and try to highlight that.
Great. Thank you. And Michelle.
I love Christmas, but the one I love the most to decorate for is Mardi Gras. In another life, I'd probably be from New Orleans, so I kind of adopt Gulf Coast Mardi Gras season, and they decorate for like 6 weeks. Like as soon as Christmas is over, it's like Mardi Gras. And they switch the trees over to Mardi Gras, and so I've just adopted that, even though I didn't grow up with it. But I had a roommate from college from Mississippi, and she was very proud of her Mississippi roots and was like, we have to celebrate Mardi Gras. And so I kind of take it from there. So it also reminds me of my friend, and it's also just fun. And who doesn't love all those colors?
Right. That's great. I love that you each have different holidays that you love the most. That's fantastic. So obviously 2020 has eliminated so much for us, and it's really forced us to slow down a bit because there for a long time was sort of nothing to do, and we may be headed back that direction. So that will naturally change the scope of what the holidays look like. So is there anything that you feel like you will do differently this year, as far as just being home truly with the people who maybe live in your house, or the people who are closest to you, because we're not allowed to sort of socialize with others? How will the holidays be different for you this year? Lisa.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're going to be extremely different. And, they, pose so many challenges. And even in between families, everybody feels different about comfort level in terms of getting together or not. I heard a friend of mine said, oh yeah, they have a brother who insists that the whole family gets tested before they get together for the holidays. And, things are changing. So like, for example, so as I mentioned, like my birthday is on Thanksgiving. And so, we do have limited family that's going to be gathering, but we wanted to make sure that we were safe. And so we're taking this giant garage space, and we're opening up the doors, and we're decorating all the walls and hanging, balloons and decorations and lighting from it. And we're kind of converting, this space to be able to, have all of us entertaining safely. And who would have thought, my original vision was to, be celebrating my birthday in Morocco. And instead it's going to be in a converted garage. Who cares really, as long as everybody is comfortable. And I think that's really the important thing. I think the number one takeaway here is, being a good host is to make everybody feel comfortable. And so I think we have a responsibility to do everything possible, in our power to be able to make sure that all the guests and our family, are truly as comfortable as possible. And, we are in a creative field. So our job is going to be to be creative and make it work and figure it out and create new traditions and new ways of being able to celebrate together while also, being safe.
Right. And I think you're the perfect example. I mean, if you had plans to travel to Morocco and now you're at home, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about is we're being forced to slow down. And I think all of us in this field are, have the great fortune of traveling all over the world and to just sort of stay put and not visit an airport and not go through that whole process definitely slows you down because you have, that is has to be very exact when you're traveling all the time. Isabel, what will be different about the holidays for you?
So for me, it'll just be celebrated with my two boys and I. My kids are 7 and 8, and so my parents are older and just not in that great of health always. So it'll just be my kids and I. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to do all of our favorite things instead of the holiday this time around being about like what we should do, what we should eat at Thanksgiving, how we, should do that. We are just all going to do our favorite things. What is your favorite food? Is it sushi? You got it. Is it ice cream? That's yours. And so I would love to have a picnic with them outside and just hike and go walking and doing all of this fun stuff, playing their favorite games. So that's what's going to be different about this year is that it's really going to be just about our very small little family of 3 and everything that we want to do. So it'll be cool.
I love that as a theme. My favorite things. That's fantastic. Everybody should do that, right? Have ice cream for Christmas. That sounds fantastic. I want to move on to the next question. This time of year is oftentimes about celebrations and office parties and cocktail parties and all of those gatherings where you're socializing with people who probably aren't your immediate family members. And we're not going to be able to do that this year. Michelle, I want to start with you. How do we create that festive magic in our home? And in that experience, not from a decoration perspective per se, although that can be included, but when you're not doing all that fun socializing, that's why I wore this top because I'm going to be wearing it this year. I'm going to wear it today. So how do you create that festive magic when that sort of outer shell that we're always so used to has been plucked away from our schedules and our calendars?
Yes, that's definitely something I've been trying to figure out. I actually plan annually a big holiday party at my home, and in a former life, I used to plan all the holiday parties at DC for Google. So I truly
I want to interrupt for 1 second. You were a party planner, correct?
Yeah, so I did plan parties, many holiday parties. So I really am missing it. So for me, I think, as many people have been saying, I've been focusing more on what we can do as a family and kind of even making an experience. We're lucky down south that we have a lot of light shows outside. So we're pretty much going to do every light show under the sun. And one of a tradition that I didn't appreciate growing up as much, but my dad's neighbor in the middle of the woods makes their own light show in their yard. And so I have been telling everyone to go visit and explore that. And so I think for me, it's like, I think people should, I'm sure just like everyone else, even though I do travel writing, there's plenty of things that are like in your town or in your area that you've always said you wanted to go and do. And they're all trying to revamp and make it as COVID safe as they can. So I think that that's like one way of doing it. And also just like, candles and scents. And, my mother has started making her sweet potato pies already. And just the smell of the sweet potato pies, I'm like, oh, it's the holidays. So I think like, there's ways, I'm not an interior designer by trade at all. I, do run a lifestyle blog, but I think there's ways of trying to pinpoint what does bring the nostalgia out of you in your home. And, I know we're all on Zooms all the time, but just like picking up the phone and calling friends and like, maybe printing out some of those pictures that you had from past events and making them a gift. I know I have tons of galleries from past events that I just didn't do anything with them. So trying to repurpose some of those past memories that you have and, thinking of them in creative ways because, gift giving is also just kind of different. So trying to use what you have done in the past and use it for the, the present. So it's definitely going to be very interesting. We were trying to figure out literally today, are we going to have a photographer shoot our friends and on the front porch and say hi from afar? Really interesting times.
Good. And Melinda, how about in London? Because do you I mean, here, oftentimes the month of December, everybody's calendars are so filled with something almost daily or at least several times a week up until, you know, the new year. Is that how it is in London as well? And how will that be different?
Very much so. There's something every single night from December 1st through to January 1st, usually. And I actually am enjoying the welcome break because we're in tier 3 lockdown, which is you literally can't leave your house. But Christmas will be hopefully in tier 2, which means that you can meet in groups of 6. And in tier 2, it's actually really wonderful because instead of going to a big party and milling around and only talking to people briefly or not really connecting with people, now you can invite people that you maybe didn't know as well and have like a really long conversation and 6-person dinner party, or go out to dinner and have those 6 people there and nobody's looking for where's the next party, what's next, where are we going to go dancing after, who am I going to meet next. Instead, you're very focused on the 6 people that are around that table, and you really, I feel like I'm really getting to know people and dig deep a lot more than I've previously done, which I think
I love that. So everything's a little more intimate. So you're, that's nice. That's nice. When you talk about the holidays, you know, Christmas or Hanukkah or the New Year, there's nostalgia that comes with that, and on a lot of holidays, not just the end of the year celebrations. So I would like each of you to tell me about something nostalgic that you can remember from your childhood or your early adulthood that is special to you. And it doesn't have to be about Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving, but any holiday really, because I think that's what you know, the routine of holidays does for us. It's a reminder of family because that's oftentimes who we spend holidays with, or close people in our lives. So Isabel, let's start with you. Do you have a piece of nostalgia that you would love to share with us that's either a tradition or something, a year that was really special to you for a holiday?
Yeah, so when we were young, my parents never gave us little like gifts for Christmas. They just gave us a trip. And so for me growing up, every single Christmas, we would always take a cruise to a different part of the world. And so, and then the one gift we got was a brain quest. You know, if you remember that from the 90s with all those questions. So that was fun. It's just opening up that brain quest and knowing that right after we got that brain quest, we were about to take a trip around the world somewhere.
And do you have a favorite cruise that you took or a favorite trip that sticks out?
So we would go on Norwegian Cruise Line a lot, and I love a fancy cruise, and I love, you know, all of the all you can eat, going to the tropical islands, all of that. And so not one in specific stands out just because they were always tropical and they were always good food and they were always super fancy.
Okay. Melinda.
It's actually really funny that I'm a follow on from that because we have the exact same tradition in my family. So every year we go on a family trip somewhere as an adventure. Some of them have been cruises and some of them have just been destinations. And one that really, I mean, they're all really special, but one that really sticks out to me was Antarctica. And
Antarctica.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of drinking on that trip. It was absolutely the most beautiful place I've ever seen. It's very surreal and it feels out of this world, like not earthly at all. So that really sticks out to me. And the New Year celebration on the boat was just really beautiful with all the lights coming off of the icebergs.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Lisa, what sticks in your mind?
Yeah, for me, really, I think it's always somehow related to food. I don't know. I'm ready to come over to Michelle's because all that like seafood, I was like, girl, I'm there. Like, how do I get there? Okay. So, I mean, so for me, I think about it, it's like, oh, 4th of July. What do I love about that? It's like, oh, my husband does amazing barbecue, right? And, you know, it was our 4th of July was our first date. So, you know, I think about that. It's like, oh, I love that. And then I think, oh, you know, Thanksgiving and just getting in the kitchen and cooking, you know, with family and just all those, you know, like you said, the traditional smells and tastes, and it just gets you in the spirit. So I think that's fun. And a twist this year, I thought for Christmas would be really fun to do a Zoom cooking show, you know, do like a Zoom cooking show with family and cook, all of us in our individual houses, cook a traditional holiday dish, but do it together. And or we've talked about maybe doing a new recipe. And so each one of us would do it in our own kitchen and just have that same experience together. And then we could talk, and it's like being together, but in a safe way.
Well, I've heard from people that that's what they are not looking forward to, is the food that they're going to miss, because in so many families, you know, one person is the keeper of the recipes. On any given holiday at my parents' house, the phone rings nonstop all morning because my mom's brothers and sisters, my mom is the keeper of the recipes, and they have questions all day long while they're making the same thing. So the phone is always ringing. But I think, you know, people have said, I am not going to have my aunt's pie or the sweet potatoes or whatever, because only that person knows how to make it. And so I love your idea of a Zoom cooking experience where everybody can sort of learn how to do it, so they'll know how to do it next year, right?
Exactly. Yeah, my daughter was just with my dad, and she was learning how to make our family's famous New York cheesecake. And so trying to pass on the tradition and give her an opportunity to learn something new. So I think it's great to, you know, mix it up and allow ourselves to kind of build some new traditions.
Okay, well, I'm coming to your house for cheesecake, and we're all going to Michelle's for great seafood. So Michelle, I'm going to transition you to the next question, but I want you to answer the first one about the nostalgia. But then celebrations are, as we've been talking about this entire time, so centered around food. So I would like you to talk about, since you've done some event planning in your life a little bit here and there, on your resume, tell us about just tabletop and how that has changed, because I'm hearing from so many of the tabletop companies and designers who are saying people are redoing their dining rooms because for the first time in a long time, and this is sort of sad to say, people are eating together again. Families are eating together because they don't have these crazy schedules of soccer games and piano recitals, and they're home together as a family. So I'll let you take over, Michelle.
Yeah. So my tradition, my dad is the youngest of many grandchildren. So he gets very spoiled by his aunts and my great aunts. So they all have a stash of desserts that only he can get. So I drive around to all of my great aunts' houses and pick up his desserts the day before Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I am going to miss that tradition because obviously we can't do that. So we'll see what we'll come up with. And maybe my dad might make his banana pudding. That's the only thing he's learned how to make, he says all the time. And maybe we'll drop it off to them in reverse. So I will certainly miss that tradition. And it was a lot of fun the first year that he was like, how about you just go do it instead of I pick it up when I came back from college. So definitely going to miss that tradition. And then as far as like tabletop, I think I'm seeing like two things of like people who are like really busy moms who are kind of just like, can't handle another thing, right? With the Zoom, everything, like trying to just keep the house somewhat together. And then there's also folks who are really going all the way, going all in on their home because maybe they aren't the person who usually hosts the holidays, and they're trying to start a collection because, usually in a family, there's a few people who always host and then everyone else who travels to those folks. So, I think all of us on the call probably have more tabletop stuff than we want to admit in our home. But for a lot of folks, they're usually going to, a friend or family members or their mother's home. So I think that that's part of that. And just people wanting to have a reason to celebrate, look at something pretty, get some new scenery. Like for me, your home is currently your scenery. And for folks who are not in the design space, they're getting to explore so many new brands and thinking of their home in a different kind of way. So I think that, as someone who planned events, I don't know if people will be renting things. It'll be interesting to kind of see what people choose to rent versus purchasing in their home because, maybe they don't think they'll use it beyond this year. I usually will rent some things. I think, it may be interesting to see what people gift to each other as a part of their event. So if you're participating in Thanksgiving together and you're hosting it for the family, of sending different pieces of china or different pieces as a gift. So I think that that's going to be kind of interesting, and also kind of like when you're thinking of tabletop, it does seem like where there is nice weather, I think people are going to entertain outside as much as possible. And they may not be using their fine china just because they're outside on the porch, on the patio, even if it's cold, trying to, do outdoor eating however they can, just so that, if they are having a few more family members over, that they're being as safe as possible. So that's, also something. And I think safety wise, I think people have been, researching a lot of the UV lights that, protect the air. So that's something that, you never really thought about before until now. And as someone, even if you're just having your mom and dad and everyone over, because everyone is traveling, if you're just going to the grocery store, we're just all exposed a little bit more. So even that of just like my family that's in the home and my mom and dad who we, are with, I think that's just something that will be top of mind. And also just, planning for plan C in case we do end up, in a scenario where we're on more of a lockdown than we currently are. So as a former event planner, especially in DC public affairs world, I think that's also something of like having A, B, and C plans and not kind of being stuck to it. That if we don't use everything that we purchase, it'll still be great regardless.
Great. Isabel, for your clients, is there anything that's going on differently with their dining room specifically, or have you sort of tapped into their entertaining situations more to help them select tabletop, or what does that picture look like for them? Because I don't know what everybody was eating off of before, but all of a sudden everybody needs new plates and new glasses. So take it away.
So I develop a really close relationship with my clients after I've been working with them for a while. And then some of them have given me the nickname of Fairy House Mother. And so I've got keys to everyone's house. I know where all of their table linens are stored. I know what needs to be dry cleaned. I know what needs to be refreshed. I know what they have. I know what they don't have. Legit. So what I've done for them, anytime that they've got like a big party, is I'll just go in when no one's home. I will set their table and then I'll leave. And so they're like a guest in their own house. They don't even know what the table is going to look like. And so I've been doing that for a while with certain people. And so I'll do that again this year, where they're just like, Isabel, we need our table done for this dinner. And then I'm like, okay, you leave, I come in.
Nice. That's a great thing. And I love that people, I mean, that's been one of the most joyful parts of Instagram during this whole COVID situation that we're in, is seeing people get creative with their tables and actually take out those pieces that they have and set the table. Cause I think schedules don't always allow for that. So, Melinda.
Yeah. Tabletop.
Yes. And how does that affect your clients, and how does that affect you?
Yeah, well, I think what Michelle said is really interesting about renting versus buying, because I mean, in London especially, we have very small spaces. And so we don't really have room for all that stuff. And I'm a textile designer. So my way of sprucing up a table and, helping my friends do the same, I have just plain, beautiful white tableware and clear glassware that I use over and over again, but then I'll do a tablecloth and something really wild. So you can, and I have all of that like in my studio. And also, a yard of fabric isn't as expensive as a whole set of new chinaware. So it's a really nice way for someone who doesn't want to spend the money on, a whole new set of new plates every single time that they entertain, to, throw down something bright and fun and festive. And lastly, in the UK, we also have this tradition of Christmas crackers. And I don't know if you know about them, but they're like little paper cylinders. And you kind of cross hands like this with your neighbor at the dinner table. And then you say 1, 2, 3, and you pull. And those explode. And on the inside is like toys and jokes and little like crowns. And that is a really fun way, because you don't know what's going to be inside each cracker, and everybody gets one. And it's a really fun game to play.
Great. And Lisa, what does the tabletop look like, not only for you, but for your clients too, and dining rooms and breakfast spaces where they're eating?
Right. So I also have a retail store, Nuance Home, and we are finding that people are purchasing a lot of glassware, new linens, and, and dishware, flatware, servingware, you name it. Everybody wants, even if they're just buying 1 or 2 pieces, So, we do get some people that come in and they want a whole new full set just so that they feel refreshed in their own home, and whether they're going to use it for the holiday or be it something that they're going to utilize every day, just to make them feel that much more special about their, meal that they sit down to. And so I think that's nice. And my approach to tabletop is more eclectic. And so I always like recreating. I like being able to mix and match. And so let's say somebody does have two different sets of dishware. Well, let's merge it together. Let's do a charger from one set, and maybe it's a white dinner plate, and then we pull in a different salad plate, or change it up and mix the linens, or every other table, maybe the glassware is a combination of two different colors. And so I like doing that because I think it's fun. And if you have different sets of things, you can either do something really simplistic, or you can mix and match and kind of throw in color to, change up your tabletop. I also really like utilizing one thing multiple times. So whether it be, the center of the table with just, a ton of fruit, or whether you use multiple candles, or so I like the idea of using multiples of things in order to kind of create a tablescape, because it creates harmony. And I think you can have sort of a robust look that's cohesive. So, being at home, let's say you don't have the opportunity to go out and buy a whole bunch of new things, but use something that you have and incorporate that into your tablescape in order to create something kind of fun and unique.
Well, and I think that oftentimes people feel like they're going to make a mistake on the table. And my philosophy on that is, when you have a table, you're setting it multiple times over and over again. So you're sort of repeating your mistake, if you will. And when it's all done, it just works together, because you see the same, that little off color that you might think doesn't go with, or a pattern that you think, is the outlier. All of a sudden you put it together. And when you see that repetitive element of setting and repeating, then it creates this really graphic, beautiful statement that is extremely harmonious. So that's fantastic. I want to say, before we move to the next questions, for anybody who's watching, we will answer questions at the end. I forgot to say this at the beginning when I introduced everybody. So we will answer any questions that everybody has. We'll be done in about 10-15 minutes. And if you have questions, you can add them in on the Zoom panel, and we will answer them. So moving on to the next question, and a couple of you have mentioned this ever so briefly, but we're going to deep dive into it now. Gift giving. And if there's one thing that we have learned from 2020, it's what we can live without, because there were a lot of things that we did not have access to. And now, kind of a second wave of not having access to them again. And I think everybody got super creative in their homes and sort of figured it out, right? That's what we do as human beings. We figure it out. So when it comes to gift giving, and especially here in the States, and Melinda, we'll get your perspective on this in a moment, but living in the States, I think we've all heard the statements about Christmas, that it's too commercial and too many toys and too much stuff. I don't know what to get somebody. I've got another holiday grab bag, gift exchange. And what do you get for the person who has everything, right? We see that on every gift guide. And that's a little sad when you think about it, because it's like, why are we still buying all of this stuff? So what will gift giving look like for you? And, how will you address gift giving differently? Or do you think about it differently because of COVID and because the overwhelming amounts of things that we all have in our lives? Lisa, you have children, and what does that look like for you? How has that changed, the gift giving theory?
Right. Well, I think, it has changed a lot. And I think that, we are really looking at more quality over quantity. And I think the other important thing is to really look at our thoughtfulness in terms of the gifts themselves. I know that we, through my store, I've developed these beautiful gift boxes. And when COVID originally hit and we shut down in March, we generated these custom gift boxes. And so we had some that were pre-done, and they might have had like a candle and some skincare and, you know, maybe a Turkish towel for the bath, or we had a charcuterie board and a cooking book, etc. So they were a slightly thematic, they were different price points. And we've really held on to that and utilized that throughout the year. And it's been really, I think, a great way to be able to reach out to those of you that you can't see in person and be able to, it's almost like sending a little care package, right? And so I think that being able to do something like that, where you're really taking the time, it made me really take the time to think about the specific items and to think about what it is that you really, you know, want to put in there and that you might enjoy sending to somebody else, to just give them that wonderful warm feeling and a representation of what you would want to do for them if you were to be there in person. In terms of like my kids, they're teenagers now, and so they luckily don't want all these toys, so you know, we've kind of gotten out of that, and you know, they are really anxious to travel again. And you know, often I know I've heard the other speakers talk about when you go, you know, instead of like, you know, having a big holiday celebration per se, you go on a trip. And I think it would be really fun to, you know, save up some money that we would normally be spending on a lot of, you know, toys, and save up some money so that we can go and travel again and really, you know, save up to have a wonderful experience down the road. So but in the meantime, I think, you know, just being really thoughtful and communicating with your family and friends and finding out what it is that they really need, you know. So, you know, maybe somebody needs a vacuum cleaner. So what are we going to do? We're all going to like pitch in and give them some money to go get the new, get the best vacuum cleaner ever. But I think it's to just be thoughtful and communicate.
Great, great. Michelle, how about you?
I'm seeing a lot of folks gifting services because we're all like very limited on our time and our resources, and especially thinking of moms, there was like a whole thing going on of people gifting a lot to new moms. So that was like one thing I saw. So I feel like this year it's like, to me, I'm like, can I give somebody something? I heard there's a site called Gold Belly that you can get like your favorite restaurants from around the country, like a meal kit sent, like, you know, the best steak and the best, you know, seafood. So the seafood I keep talking about, I think Charleston and New Orleans is on there. So I'm seeing a lot of that, cooking classes for the folks who are, you know, missing those types of things. So I think it's a lot of gifting in that sense, and also people trying to support local and small businesses as well, which I think it has been on trend for a while, but I think people are like you're definitely doing it, just because you don't know what's going to happen with shipping and delivery. So if that, you know, local home decor shop has it in-house, you know, it just takes the stress off of you of worrying like, is this going to get here on time? If, you know, if people are deciding to order things. So I know, at least for myself, that's definitely like top of mind for me. I think people will be gifting, you know, as we are in the home, I see people gifting art a lot more, gifting, you know, photography, you know, all those sorts of things. So I think people who maybe didn't give gifts of home related things will be doing that a lot more now than what they once. And even, you know, actually writing stick cards and like stationery and trying to do more of that. I think kind of going old school. Maybe people don't always think of that as a gift, but a handwritten note in this digital age is definitely really a gift. You know, so I think that, you know, just getting creative with it. I love paper, so I have a whole stack of stationery that I will never use because it's just my collection. But I'd like to see more of that. I think so. I wish I had better handwriting to write those beautiful notes.
I love paper too. That's definitely an addiction of mine. Yes. Beautiful stationery. Melinda.
Yeah, I completely agree with Lisa in terms of, you know, really thinking about the person that you're buying for and communicating with them. I also think that, you know, in a lockdown situation, it's really fun to think of gifts that are actually activities. So like you said, those like cooking courses online, and then like maybe all the stuff that they need to do that cooking course, or because like someone did a sushi making course online, and I think that would be really fun if you gifted that to like a family and you sent them like the rice and the cooker and the all that kind of stuff. So it's, you know, family building, and it's, you know, fun and different, and you're learning something new.
Right. And I think if there was any time to learn how to do something, all of those things that we wish we knew, that we wish we could do, this is the season for it. And this is the year to do it because we're at home. I want to learn how to needlepoint. I'm obsessed with all of this fantastic needle pointing that is going on everywhere. So maybe, I don't know, ask me in 3 months. Isabel, you have children too. So talk about your thoughts. I'm super curious about gift giving, and I'm not quite sure how old your children are, but talk about that and how gift giving has changed for you, or your thoughts about it.
So my kids are 7 and 8, so they're first grade and third grade, so they're young. And ever since they were little, I've really tried to instill in them the idea of a personalized gift, as opposed to just stuff. Because they'll ask me, what do you want for your birthday, Mom? What do you want for Christmas? I literally don't want stuff at all. And so Mother's Day is a big one. And so what I ask for them is to write me a card and make it really detailed. I don't want like a scribble or whatever. I want a super duper detailed card. I want them to like make up a book, whatever. And so, and I have them do that for their grandparents. And so, I mean, that is so much more special than anything else that money could buy for a grandparent who has everything, you know? So
Right.
That's a big thing that I instill in my kids.
Yeah, I love that you have that emphasis to do that, because I think we are so pressured as Americans, especially, to buy a thing, right? You know, it's you're ordering something and you want to see something in that, you know, to check out and buy now and in your shopping cart. And we need to sort of pull ourselves back from that, which leads me to my next topic, because again, we know that during COVID, people have been reducing the amount of stuff within their homes, and they're, you know, boxing up, bagging up things, taking them to Goodwill, other places that accept donations, to just sort of rid their house and have a cleaner experience that's a little more quiet, not so anxious. So how has that affected each of you with your design clients, either from an aesthetics perspective, Melinda, you know, with the textiles you design and wanting that sort of cleaner, uncluttered appearance, to just the amount of things and objects that they have within their home and getting rid of and organizing. What does that look like? Isabel, we'll just start with you again. What does that picture look like for your clients?
I just really encourage everyone just to only keep things that they absolutely love around them. I read the book, The Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and that is a design philosophy that I hold so near and dear. And it's not about, you know, the trends or I should do this or I should do that. It's what do you love? And clearing out stuff brings in new energy. And so it feels so good to get rid of stuff that just doesn't bring you joy. And so to me, it's energy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Melinda,
Yeah.
what are people like in the UK? Because, you know, sometimes in America, we pass along our bad habits to y'all sometimes. So we like stuff in this country. We fill our houses with things, and we buy more things, and then we buy more things, but never get rid of those other things. So how are people in London? Do you guys do that over there? I know you don't have as much space.
No, we don't have that much space. It's not really about new things here. It's actually about old things, about antiques and collectibles and things that are passed down from generations. Yes, of course, we have the consumer culture, but not to the extent that you guys do. And most houses in the UK are filled with things that their families have passed down, which is really special. But also then you kind of end up with like random statues and they don't even know where it came from. So it's also good, you know, to cleanse those things too.
Well, and I think the good thing about design right now is we all have permission now to sort of alter those pieces that we've inherited. Maybe we don't like the cushion that's on it, or maybe we don't like the finish that it's in. And unless it's an investment piece or an investment antique that is worth oodles and oodles of money, we now have permission that we can change it. The old school way of thinking was you can't touch anything that's old. And now I think that we are a little more eager to give it our own modern spin, so we can still keep the form, but give it new life. So that's great. Lisa.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think that, for me, it's in the beginning, there was immediate purging throughout my whole entire house, my whole entire office. I mean, even just looking at like, what the Zoom background was, it forced me to like totally repaint my whole entire office. I mean, it was like, okay, all the normal rules have like been totally thrown out the window. And I think that it's also, given us an opportunity, like, as you said, to, just look at things in a totally different light. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to stick with what I had before. This is an opportunity to really make a shift and to make a change or reinvent a space or to get rid of something or clear out that closet. And, because now maybe it has to become a home office or, whatever it is. I mean, I think we've had to repurpose a lot of spaces that, we weren't thinking about, in the past. And so that I think is a fun design challenge. And it's also a really great opportunity to, to kind of cleanse and reimagine, be creative and reimagine in order to, make things really work. And, going back to like what Michelle was saying about supporting local, and I would much rather have a client invest in a beautiful piece of artwork by a local artist or a gorgeous sculpture or piece of pottery that was handmade by somebody, that you can really put a name and a face to, than, buying something,
Right.
without that meaning. So I think being wise and careful and choosing those items that you want to surround yourself with that make
I think this is going to be a very successful year for antiques and very successful year for artists and small batch makers for that reason. People want objects that have a little bit more meaning and a little more thought behind them, and support something old too. Michelle, do you have thoughts on the consumer culture or reducing consumer culture or changing it or?
Well, I when I think about my home and all the repurposing and all the things I have, because I love things, I have been featured more than I'd like to admit about my collections of things. And I have 2 babies, a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old. So I definitely got rid of a lot of stuff. I think that it certainly has made even the folks who, like myself, who love collecting a million things, just rethink why we're buying the things. But then some things I've amped up. Like I'm going to buy the books because I love the books. And that's how I'm traveling, is through books. Right. So I think some of it, we certainly have a consumer culture, but I think, some of the things in your home do have like a strong meaning. Art is a meaning for me. I love buying art. I love supporting artists. I love buying books. And, I think even with some of the things that maybe consumerism, but it also just may be like the memory of like a loved one. And that's what you do, right? You love China because your grandmother had it and your grandmother's no longer here. So you buy those things because it's the memory and the connection to something. So, there's certainly some element of consumer, culture, but I think we can also try to maybe just focus on the things that there is that personal connection to, so that we don't. I love shopping. I'm not going to sit here and say that, I'm going to stop shopping. But I also think what I've tried to focus on is like the shopping that feels like an experience, because it reminds me of something versus just like, it looks cute, it looks nice. I think, obviously we're just in limited space. And also just, for me, I've just been rearranging things and putting things outside, putting things somewhere else, stacking it somewhere differently, giving some stuff to my mom. She's given me some stuff. So, trying to see where you can, gift things to your family. So that's been fun for me, and seeing it now through my kids' eyes and trying to decorate a room with kids that need something, a different version of life every 3 weeks, because 1 minute they're not walking and the next minute they're walking and then they're crawling and then they're grabbing at my tabletop. So I don't know how long my tables are going to last, because my daughter is about to start walking. So that's going to be very interesting and entertaining, which I just had to get rid of a whole Nutcracker collection that I had in the back because she figured that out really fast. So that's fun. But, even if she messes it up, that's the fun of seeing it. It's like, it's fun. That's the memory that I'll have of it, of keeping that broken thing. So sometimes I keep, it's broken, but I'm like, that's the memory I have from my kids and I want that memory. So,
Okay. Yes. And I think what you said is so important. And maybe the best way to wrap this up is that, this holiday season, I think people are going to find new ways to connect. Whether it's, like you said, buying a piece of china because it reminds you of your grandmother, or some way that gives you a connection to something, because a lot of our connections have been stripped away from our lives. So we have to be creative and reinvent what connection means. So, okay, I'm going to finish up that part of the panel, but we do have a couple of questions. So the first question is, are you finding that people are leaning traditional, formal, or rather casual this season in terms of holiday styling, given how relaxed this year is going? And before we went live, we kind of all talked about, how things have become more casual, and perfect isn't necessary anymore. So do any of you have thoughts or want to jump in on that question about styling? Yes, Melinda, go for it.
I think that people are really excited to dress up for an occasion, even if it's just like staying in your house. People are like, oh my gosh, something to do. So, I think a lot of my friends are actually kind of going online and like, ooh, pretty sequin dress, like add to cart, and like wanting to dress up and do the makeup and do the tablescape and, really go all out, even if it's just with a small group of 4 or 5 people.
Okay, great. And do any of you have anything to add to that?
I do. I think people are going to go all out on their holiday cards this year. Like,
good point. Yes.
They're gonna, and that's, just I was planning that. I was like, every year I plan a holiday party, so I never have time to really go all out to actually dress myself up for that holiday card and get that out. So every year I miss that. And this year I'm like, we're just going to go as crazy as we can on the front porch for a holiday card this year, because that's all we can kind of do. And I think I can imagine people are going to might be seeing tuxedos on holiday cards just because the men who say they hate wearing them are like, I can't go anywhere, and I have this here. So we're supposed to be going to some sort of like horse thing where it's like socially distanced. My husband's very excited to shop for clothing, which he never is excited to shop for clothing. So that's where I'm getting that from. So.
Okay, Isabel or Lisa, do you have anything to add to that as far as style?
Yeah, so I feel like people are definitely leaning towards more formal, more special, more over the top, and also just in making the everyday special. Just a dinner part, just a family dinner of just your immediate family, over the top with getting dressed and tablescapes and all of that. So it's just interesting that, yes, in such a casual year, that it is going the opposite, super formal and over the top.
Right. Lisa, do you have anything to add to that?
I think it just helps it make it as special as possible. You can't, go out to, the cocktail parties and feel, glamorous every single weekend. But, now you have the one opportunity and, put all your focus and your energy in that. And I think too, not only now are people focusing on, maybe their indoor space in their dining room, but it's pouring out to the outside. And like, I'm seeing a lot more, we're seeing a lot more garden design and a lot of, I'm selling a lot of containers and big, we're doing a lot of landscaping upgrades and outdoor cushions and outdoor throws, and so everybody can be cozy and warm outside. And so I think you're seeing that trickling out, the decorating and the entertaining now, that outdoor space is becoming a lot more important.
Yes, definitely. I love that. We also have this question: how are you all handling client and staff / employee gifting? Since team or client dinners are all off the table this year, how do you plan on handling those types of thank yous? So Lisa, we'll just stick with you and we'll get
Okay. Yes. Well, for those of the staff that's watching and listening, oh, well, cat's out of the bag. What we're doing. So each one of my employees is going to get a gift basket, and it's going to be full of our minimalist wreath making accoutrement. So it's going to come with a wire wreath and a bunch of greenery and ribbon and the scissors and the clippers and the wire. And then we're going to have a little cocktail mix and some snacks all put in, and everybody will be able to get their gift basket. And we're going to do a big Zoom holiday party, and everybody's going to make their own wreath at home. So I think that'll be fun. I mean, we're normally used to doing a huge cocktail party and with lots of food and drink and all being together. So, I wanted to really make sure that we were celebrating and, having the opportunity for us to have sort of a relaxing, enjoyable holiday moment, but at the same time, for everybody to feel really safe. So.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to add quickly on that? Because we have one more portion and we've got to wrap this up. Yes, Isabel.
So the people this year that have really just been so amazing have been all of my workroom, because with interior design just being, a crazy industry right now with everybody wanting stuff, I have asked all kinds of favors to my wallpaper guy, my seamstress, my workroom, my upholsterer, everybody. And so I'm really going to write each of them a letter. I love to write. I love the paper, and they're each going to get like a 3-page letter. So that's my favorite thing that I'm going to do.
Okay. All right. Well, this is my favorite part of my panels, that I always do a little rapid fire at the end. So we have 20 questions. This is going to be really quick to end our session. Isabel, I'm going to start with you. Just first thing that comes out: all I want for Christmas is
my 2 front teeth.
I think that's right. That's sure. Michelle, I really wanted blank as a child and I never received it.
A pony.
A pony. Okay. Melinda, we'll give you this one since you are in a foreign land. My favorite Christmas movie is
Home Alone.
Home Alone. That's a good one. When I first started at Traditional Home many, many moons ago, when people actually wrote real letters into the magazine, we would get so many questions about the Home Alone house, because it's on the North Shore of Chicago, and it was so traditional and right up our readers' alley. So it's funny that was your answer.
Yeah.
Lisa, for a Christmas tree, do you like a super designed Christmas tree or just sort of old school, organic, just mismatched?
Super designed, but yet I still put all my kids' ornaments that they've made, and they're sort of like scattered, around, but yes, it's the first thing you see when you walk in the house. So it's got to look fabulous.
Okay, we're going to go the other direction now and start with you for this round. Ugly Christmas sweaters, enough already, or I kind of hope they become a trend again?
Oh, that's for me.
Yeah, that's for you.
Oh, I kind of hope they become a trend again.
Okay, great. Melinda, best stocking stuffer, excuse me.
Alcohol, little tiny bottles, fill it up.
Hey, that's great. Michelle, your favorite Christmas carol?
Silent Night.
Oh, that's a good one. Beautiful. And Isabel, Hallmark Christmas movies, huge eye roll, or I started watching them in July?
I hate them.
I know you. My mom loves them.
I love them.
Who loves them?
I love them.
I love them too.
Melinda. You know what? You're 6 hours ahead of my mother, and she's probably watching them at the same time you are, like when it's 6 o'clock in the morning, because she loves them.
We don't have Netflix here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Isabel, or no, Lisa, my shopping is complete, or I'll be at a local store at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Last minute.
Last minute. Okay. You get the next question. Naughty or nice?
Both.
Okay, that's fair. Melinda, it is not a holiday dinner without my family's blank. What is the one traditional thing that makes
a raclette machine? It's a machine, an Austrian machine that melts cheese, and then like it's like this, and then you tilt the cheese and it runs onto the plate. It's so good.
You have me at melty cheese.
Yeah, it's delicious. Look into it.
Michelle, it's snowing outside. It's probably not snowing outside in South Carolina, but in case you had snow, build a snowman or make a snow angel.
Snow angel.
Snow angel. And Isabel, snow, everything looks better covered in white, or it's a 4-letter word?
It's a 4-letter word.
Yeah, I agree. Next for Isabel, holiday baking. What are you making?
Anything that Instacart will deliver.
Okay. Michelle, my New Year's resolution is blank. Or
To have more patience. That's been my New Year's resolution my whole life.
Okay. Well, I wish you success with that and luck. Melinda, if you could spend the holiday in a different destination, where would it be?
Well, I'm actually going to the Maldives this December. So I'm really excited for that.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the last round. So, Lisa, pumpkin pie, sweet potatoes, or cranberry sauce?
Pumpkin pie.
Okay, I agree with you. I'm not really a pie person, but pumpkin pie that gets me every time. Melinda, silver or gold?
Gold.
Okay, Michelle, beads or sequins?
Sequins.
And finally, Isabel, the last question. The last purchase I made on Amazon was?
Legos.
Legos. Okay. All right. I love those little Lego architectural sets. Those are fantastic. Yeah, I don't have one, but I would love to build that. So thank you everybody who's watching. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon and evening and night for Melinda in London. Thank you to all of my panelists and Comm Collective for inviting us all to talk about the holidays today. And we wish everyone, no matter what you celebrate, a happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and cheers to a better 2021. Okay, bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.